Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Today I've got a fountain pen focus for you. We're going to be taking a look at this pen. This is the Laban 325. This is in the gorgeous Cambridge brown colour. What we'll do, we'll look over the parts of the body, we'll do some size comparisons, do a writing sample, and then I'll give you my scores and thoughts on this pen. Here we are down on the mat, and here we've got the Laban 325 in this glorious brown colour. Just going to slowly turn this around. We're going to look at the body part here. Just look at this. We've got browns, we've got whites. There's a lot of chatoyancy coming through. I mean, some of that white looks nearly silver. Just look at that there as we come round. That chatoyancy, the way it's bouncing the light. I think this looks really pretty. So at the top here, we've got a nice little medallion there. We've got an L in the middle, and it looks a bit like a wreath going around it. That very quickly tapers up until we get down to two parallel gold-coloured bands. Below the bottom of those, we've got the clip. The clip, although it looks small, it looks that it's in proportion to the rest of the pen. The clip is very stiff, but it does work well when I put that in my pen case. It holds on well to the straps, so I don't have to worry about it running around. The cap itself looks like there's still a little bit of a taper until we get to about a quarter of the way down the clip. Then it's straight all the rest of the way. We come down to a gold band here. We've got the word Laban. I like how they've got this word in line with the clip. I think that looks really good. It's the attention to detail. If we turn that around, there's no other engraving there on that band. We've then got a little bit more of the cap, so it's using this same brown plastic. It goes for maybe 5mm, and then we've got a sharp drop down to the body. Because it's dropping down rather than just ending, you don't really feel it. Yes, you know there's that drop down, but it feels comfortable. We come into the body, and there we've got two gold bands again. And below the second gold band, we've got this gorgeous patterning. Just going to slowly turn this around so you can see it all. So we've got dark browns, we've got oranges, we've got whites. Turn this around. We've got a gorgeous chatoyancy in here. Just look at how that's reflecting the light. I think that looks quite pretty. The body, it appears to be the same width going all the way down. We've then got another gold coloured band, and then we've got the end here. This is fixed in place. It's not a cap you can remove. I like the way they tie it all together. I like the brown colour. It's unusual in my pens. I've got a lot of black. I've got a lot of blue. I've got a lot of demonstrator pens. It's unusual to have this gorgeous brown colour. And what I tend to use this pen for is brown inks. You know, strange, brown body, brown ink. Let's take the cap off anyway. So we come off in, there's half, 1.5 turns, and that comes off quite nicely to reveal this gorgeous Laban nib. I quite like the look of this nib. Yes, it's all one colour. I do usually prefer two-tone nibs. What makes this stand out for me is the way we've got the writing, the engraving. That's done in white. So it just really fetches out to me. We've got a nice decorative border. We've got that breather hole. Then here we can see the white writing. And then below that we've got the B for broad. The section on here is nice and comfortable. It fits well in my hand. It feels like it's been designed for my hand. I like it. Could it do with being wider? I've got to be honest, no, because I just find this sits so well. Look at my fingers. It's a short section, but my fingers fit so nicely in it. And then we get the threads, so I'm not even touching the threads when I'm holding the pen. Unposted, it's quite a nice pen. It's a nice fit. Maybe if it had been slightly longer, it would be better, but I'm being very picky with that. It will post, but it posts exceptionally long. It posts well, it's nice and solid on there. It just seems very long and very back heavy. So I tend to use this unposted. Let's take the body off. So unscrewing there. That reveals the included converter. The converter is branded Laban as well. Metal fittings. We've got metal here inside the body. Hopefully the camera can catch that. So not really something that's suitable for eyedroppering. And I think in a way that's a shame, because it would be nice with this pen to have that large amount of ink in there, so I don't need to refill it very often. Let's pop this back together. But all in all, I quite like it. It's a nice looking pen. Let's fetch in some pens for size comparisons. The first ones I've brought in, we've got my standards, which is the Pilot Metropolitan and the Lamy Safari. I try to use these pens in all my videos. Most people have either got or they've seen one of these pens. This way you get a rough idea about the size of the pen. And as we can see, slightly longer than both of them when it's got the cap on. Let's take the caps off. With the caps off, the Safari and the Laban, now they're virtually the same size. The Metropolitan, ever so slightly smaller, but that's with the tip of the nibs lined up. The nib on the Laban is a number 6 size nib, so it's a lot bigger than both the others. So I'm just going to move the Laban so the bottoms of the sections now are lined up. And when we look at it this way, then the Laban, it's got that same length as the Pilot Metropolitan. So it's not a big pen, but because there's that extra width to it, it feels nice anyway. Let's post these pens. So we've now got the pens posted. I've lined the top of the nibs here, so that's where we're basing our measurements from. The Laban posted slightly longer than the Safari, but as I've already said, I find posted it feels very back heavy and unwieldy. I'm going to swap these pens out, and I'm going to fetch some in that are in roughly the same price range. The two pens I've brought in a Ranga Model 5. This is a big pen. This cost 142 Australian dollars. The Laban, that was 146 Australian dollars. I've also brought in a Bennu Talisman, and that was 167 Australian dollars. The Ranga, it's very big. The Laban and the Bennu, the Laban ever so slightly longer, maybe by almost a centimetre when they're posted. Let's take a look at these unposted. Unposted, the Laban and the Bennu, they're roughly the same size, and they look very much the same in terms of section width as well. I think maybe with the Laban, we've got more of a taper out than what we see on the Bennu. The Ranga, again, and I've said it, it's a big pen no matter what. All number 6 size nibs. I've got to be honest, in terms of looks, I prefer the Ranga's nib, but that's because it's got this two-tone effect, and I personally like to see the two-tone effect on nibs. Let me just turn that around a little bit. I know we're catching terrible reflections today. Let's pop the caps on. With the cap on, that Laban, nice, just a little bit longer than the Bennu, and so much shorter than the Ranga. In terms of looks, I do have to love the look of this Bennu, this dragon's blood pattern. I think it really catches the eye, but certainly the Laban is getting close to that, with this gorgeous material that we've already looked at. Let's get this out of the way, and we'll fetch in the rule and do some measurements. So here we've got the rule of measuring. Let's go with the cap on. So that comes in at 14.9 centimetres. Unposted, 13 centimetres, and then posted, 17.3 centimetres. The width of the body at its widest, so just about here, that was 1.33 centimetres. The cap, just below the clip, that was 1.57 centimetres, and the section, it went from 1.04 centimetres all the way up to 1.23 centimetres. Just move this out of the way and we'll fetch in the scales of weighing. So weights, the full pen, remember there is some ink in this, 37 grams. The cap, 14 grams, and then the body, 23 grams. So not a heavy pen, but also certainly not one of my lightest pens either. Let's get this out of the way and we'll fetch in the notepad of testing. Here we've got the notepad of testing. This is an A4 Ayush notebook. It's got 100 GSM paper. It's a really nice fountain pen friendly paper. Now, you'll actually see here, I've already done writing tests with this. I recorded all of this yesterday and my camera didn't work. So yes, it recorded, but it was like stop motion. So the whole video was going like this. So I thought, can't put that out. So I'm re-recording today. Let's do some writing. So we've got here a Laban 325 with a broad nib. It costs 146 Australian dollars. The ink is by Dominant Industry. Dominant Industry is a Korean company. Laban, that's a Taiwanese company. The ink name is Winter Wood. This is a very dark brown ink. It quite often looks black to me. Let's look at drying times. Immediate, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute, still smudging a little bit. Let's go for a 2-minute test. There we are, nice and dry. Let's move the mic down to the paper so you can hear the pen writing. I like the way this pen writes. It's smooth. Now this paper's got some texture to it, but you can hardly feel it through this pen. And in one respect, that's one of the things that, to me, being extremely picky, lets this down. It's a very personal thing. I like the tactile nature. I like to feel the feedback, and there's not a lot in here. The nib, it doesn't feel overly stiff when I'm writing. Let's have a look at line variation so we can see that. This is with no pressure. This is with added pressure. Let's take the lines across. Whilst we've got the pen out, let's do the final flow test as well. No issues with flow, keeps up really well. Now this is one of the things I was saying about the way that this ink is. If we look near the top, it looks very black. It still looks very dark. Yes, there's hints of brown there. Even the sentence, we've got a lot of black in it. But once I came down and started doing my line variation and doing this scribble test, you can see a lot of the brown coming through. So it's quite a dark ink. When I look at this ink, I actually think to myself, it reminds me of dirty motor oil. You've had the oil in your engine for 3 or 4 months. You go and check the levels, and this reminds me of that dark brown that I see in the oil. I'd love to see a bit of green in this ink. I think if it had a bit of a green sheen to it, I think that would really stand up. I mean, winter wood, you expect as you're going through the wood in the winter, you see this dark brown of all the trunks, of all the branches. So I can see where the dark brown's coming through. But to my mind, you also get the green because there's always some green around as well. And that's why I'd like to have seen that green sheen in there. Let's give this some scores. So in terms of pen looks, I like this dark brown colour. I think it looks really nice. I quite like the patterning on it. And I like the fact the pattern is limited to just this portion. It means it's not overwhelming. I think if you'd have had this going all the way through, I think it would have just looked an eyesore. But as it is, I quite like the look of it. The only thing I would say, and this is a very personal view, I think the pen actually looks a bit cheap. You know, I've got a lot of other pens. Let me just fetch back that Benu. The Benu is slightly more in terms of cost, but it looks so much more because we've got the faceting on here. Yes, we've got the sparkle as well, but it's just the way that we've got a slightly different shape to the pen. Whereas with the Laban, I don't see any of that. But it's still nice. So what I'm going to do is give it for pen looks an 8 out of 10. Writing experience. Well, as you can see, it's very nice. It's comfy in my hand. Unposted, which is how I use most of my pens. It fits well, it feels nice. Yes, a little bit extra length would be nice, would be quite appreciated by me. But again, I'm being very picky. I like this. I like the way the section feels in my hand. I like the way it writes. The whole thing to me just screams, this is a quality writing experience. Writing experience, going to give it a 9 out of 10. Ink flow. You know, we've seen in our test here, no problems with ink flow. I've had 4 different inks in this pen since I got it. All of them worked really well. Had no issues with hard starts. Had no issues with skipping. The ink got this nice flow. I've left this pen about 2 months between uses because it's one of the things I like to test. And even after 2 months, I picked the pen up. It started writing straight away. There was no issues, nothing I need to do to get it to start writing. So for ink flow, 9 out of 10. Value for money. This certainly is not one of the cheapest pens around. It's 146 Aussie dollars. And I've got to be honest, I think it's overpriced. If it had been more like 110, maybe 120, I think that would be fair for it. I've got to be honest, at the price it is, I've got no plans to buy another one. I just think it's just slightly too much. It's a nice pen to use. It does what I want. It lets me get ideas out of my head and onto paper. It's a pleasant writing experience, but everything I think about always comes back to the price. So value for money, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, which means the total score for the Laban 325 is 8.5 out of 10. So this is my fountain pen focus, where we're looking at the Laban 325 in Cambridge Brown with dominant industry winter wood. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Have you got a Laban 325? What are your thoughts on it? How do they differ from mine? How would you score a pen? Please drop a comment down below. Let's kickstart that conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button every time you like, every time you comment. Just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.